think I'm the only one not playing Fallout 4. I'm not entirely sure if I'm a bad gamer, but I do think from time to time that I might be a gamer apart, and not necessarily utilizing the wonderful game console that my wife got me a year ago for Christmas to the fullest of its abilities. I spend much, much more time playing indie games than I do the big AAA titles. Like the aforementioned Fallout 4, and I get just gobs and gobs of enjoyment out of them, and I suppose that's the point of all this. So being a good gamer versus a bad one is a moot debate. One of the things I really like about indie games is that I have seen a really good resurgence of intellect over just raw doings, raw shootings, things like that in video games. Stories that actually make you think, gameplay that actually makes you think instead of twitch mechanics. And while there's certainly room for good twitch mechanics in a gamer's library, not unlike television shows, somewhere along the line, I think somebody maybe got the impression that you didn't necessarily have to be smart or engaging intellectually in order to build a really, really great game. No, I don't hold to that. Back before games were as hyped up and high tech as they were, smart, intellectual, engaging games were all we had. Your Zork, Zork 2, Demon's Forge, the old Myst games, for God's sakes, were just torturous, and they weren't about action as much as they were about adventure and about intellect and about using your mind to solve puzzles. Newer generations of games, the old PC adventure titles, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Atlantis, Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders, Day of the Tentacle, Monkey Island, Loom. Loom. I should really do one of these episodes on Loom. Such a gorgeous game. Anyway, yeah. Sooner or later, the genre of the game of intellect and the indie title had to run smack dab into each other. And I appear to have wandered into just that. A game called The Fall, which has been in development for about 2 years, Over the Moon Games, was recently released on the PlayStation 4 console with developer commentary. And it touts unique, innovative gameplay and looking for something new and unique and original to do with games, and a gripping, engaging storyline that mixes action and adventure with philosophy and a deep, engaging plot. And for the price point of $10, I thought, I'll give that a go. Is it any good, though? Yeah, especially people in my generation or older, the gameplay type will be instantly recognizable and instantly enjoyable. God forbid any of these little indie developers ever close ranks with a AAA studio. You're going to end up with just an absolutely fantastic title, and it's going to make everybody else look like shrubs. I have been rambling for years now about how these AAA studios need to wake up, because these young, hungry development houses are opening up with these indie titles, and the consoles are letting people push these games out at pennies on the dollar. Folks aren't renting out whole floors in an office building anymore. They're doing this stuff in their basement, and it's good. And The Fall is no exception. 2 years in development for a game title like this, $10 a pop. The first of what promises to be 3 games, and I really, really hope they make all 3 of them. Folks, the AAA studios really, really need to be worried about stuff like this. I would never buy another AAA game again if my PlayStation was just full of good indie content like games like this. Games like this, games like Fez, games like The Swapper, and Teslagrad, and all those other really wonderful indie games that I've got hanging out on my console right now. Limbo, Outland, all these just fantastic titles that, in any event, The Fall puts you in the place of a suit of combat armor that is equipped with an onboard AI called ARID, A-R-I-D, forgive me, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but the gentleman indwelling the suit, Colonel Joseph, is injured and knocked unconscious, and so in order to get him medical help, the suit's AI comes online as part of an emergency protocol and takes control of the suit and sets off to try and get the pilot of the suit medical attention. And that's the story of the game, is you fall, appropriately enough, into the game, and you have to figure out why you fell and where you fell to, and got to find a way to save your pilot, since that's your primary objective. The game, this is probably the only one of 2 negative things I'm gonna say about this thing, and they're not really negatives. There are a lot of people, a lot of reviews that I've read out there touting this as true innovation and a good new direction that the bless you several times, dear. That was very good. True gameplay innovation, and no. No, sorry. You can't make bold claims like that without, no. While it might not be a real honest-to-God innovation in gameplay, it is a massive and hugely welcome throwback to genres, in particular like the ones that I mentioned, your Monkey Islands and your Day of the Tentacles and your Zack McCrackens and stuff like that. Those point-and-click PC adventure games, they were very procedural. They certainly weren't open world, but there was just tons and tons of fun. Wandering from screen to screen and having conversations with people and picking up inventory items and then figuring out new and crazy and creative ways to use those inventory items later on. That is the meat and potatoes of that game. A little bit of Metroidvania going on here, definitely retracing some of the older rooms when you've got newer inventory items and being able to unlock new places and new rooms and eventually gathering new weapons and new suit abilities. Really, this is just the next evolution of a game like Monkey Island. And it's just extraordinarily well done. Very, one of the things that made the original Gunpei Yokoi's Metroid, the original Metroid on the NES, stand out was how isolated the whole game made you feel from screen to screen, and how big and dark and all alone the game made you feel. And this just absolutely nails that. The ambiance of this game is fantastic. The music in the game is fantastic. The voice acting is fantastic. I'm always surprised and delighted by how much polish these little indie studios end up putting on these games, and The Fall is no exception whatsoever, especially because when you look at the footprint of this game, and this is just mind-blowing, this is less than 400 meg. This game is less than 400 meg with good, high-quality voice samples, high-quality visuals. Less than 400 meg, this thing, squatting on my hard drive right now. That's incredible in a game that's this size. Plus, there's developer commentary on it. The game was released on other platforms before it came to PS4, and when they brought it over to the PlayStation 4, they wanted to bring some goodies with it, so they embedded developer commentary. into the game, which is always just a delight in already well put together games. It's already always a delight to go and play them through again and listen to the developer commentary and see what kind of made them think about why they did. Definitely would recommend playing the game through once all the way through without the developer commentary on. The game's not... I'm going to sit here and say that the game's not particularly long. But I played it for 4, maybe 5 hours. And drilled pretty steadily through it. Games like this, these procedural adventure games, a lot of people rag on it not having any replay value. Well, no. The game probably doesn't have a whole lot of replay value with the exception of the developer commentary. Game's going to play exactly the same way through every single time. It's a procedural adventure game. Same thing with all the old PC games. It's the journey's the worthier part. And it's neat. I'm looking forward now, having beaten the game, to actually going back and playing it through again and looking at the game from a new light. Now, but the game's not particularly long. Not in the no 40 or 50 hours of gameplay. It's no Grand Theft Auto or Mass Effect or anything like that. But again, some people may whinge a little bit about the 5 hours of playtime for $10. Well, a very, very good friend of mine named Kevin has a metric that I try desperately to apply whenever I play games like this, which is we don't balk at all about going to movie theaters and dropping $10 for a movie ticket and another $5 for a 12-ounce thimble of Coke. 12-ounce thimble is actually a really big fucking thimble. But you get it. This is $15 for 2 hours worth of entertainment and completely disposable, non-renewable nourishment, and I use the term nourishment lightly. So if you're willing to throw away $15 on 2 hours worth of entertainment, that's $7.50 an hour. And if you're going to get more than 2 hours worth of enjoyment out of the game, yeah, you know what? Throw the developer some coin. Especially these little indie houses where you get the whole game right out of the chute. None of this, this game is launching and you could buy additional DLC. That's an argument for another time. That's a naughty argument. At any event, yes, very much so worth the money. Fantastic ambiance, great music, great sound effects, buttery smooth gameplay. All in all, just absolutely worth it. Good, engaging storyline. Several philosophical questions are raised, and all in all, just an absolutely fantastic game. Well worth the money. If you've got an afternoon that you want to kill, just go ahead and feel free to sit down and play it. My wife and I played it together. It's a great game to engage in. One person drives and the other person's along as an extra brain. It's very enjoyable to play with multiple people. It's one of those games when you can really kind of crowdsource the brain with a number of folks and kind of figure out what's going on. Some of the puzzles are easier. Some of them are a little bit harder. There will be a slightly spoiler. Well, that's not slightly at all. It's marginally spoiler anyway. There will be a marginally spoiler section after the musical credits. For anybody who does pick up the game, there are one or two things that you should know. I'll try not to spoil anything, but to avoid you going to the internet for walkthroughs, there are one or two things that you probably ought to know. But all that aside, hopefully you pick up the game, hopefully you play it, you love it as much as I did. Hopefully you do it without having to go to the internet for a walkthrough. Here's the spoilery bits I was talking about. My other complaint about the game, of course, the first being that it's not really innovative as much as it is just bringing back something that desperately needed to be brought back. My other complaint about the game is there were 3 separate occasions, 2 of which were completely out of left field, and one of which was hit or miss. When my wife and I had to go to internet walkthroughs in order to figure out what the F to do. I unfortunately was forced to peek at a couple of odds and ends while I was on the internet doing that, and I certainly don't want you to have to do that because the story is absolutely fantastic. But you're gonna get stuck if you don't have these little tidbits of information. The first one is at the very, very beginning of the game. You need to understand that you can get off the elevator once you turn it on. On the ground floor, turn the elevator or hit the activation button for the elevator, and then understand that you can scramble off of it once you do that. What and why you should do that, or you'll figure that out. The second big thing is the old woman that needs help crossing the street. Let her die. Just let her die. Your life will be a whole lot easier. The game will move forward in a whole lot more of an "oh yeah" way. You just let her die. Thirdly, you're going to get to a point in the game where there is a body face down in the water, where a description says that body is supposed to be, pour the superconductive fluid at that point down into the water. Those 3 points in the game seem random, and I hope I don't spoil too much giving them away. But those were things that, as I jostle my microphone here, those were things that really kind of took me out of the game, because you just, for the most part, if you're patient and you pay attention to the clues, the game takes you along from point A to point B very, very well. Don't be afraid to turn the brightness in the game up. The gamma test in the game is not as generous as it should be. I've got a big, wonderful TV, and my wife still had to spot things for me. Excuse me, that I was missing from screen to screen. So don't be afraid to turn your gamma up either.
You might just be blind.
No one loves her.